In this lesson, we'll work on the bicycle seat. So the seat is going to be kind of extending off here, and so we'll actually just build this part at this point. So let's go ahead and bring in a primitive, and let's bring in a cube. Let's start with a cube. Let's go ahead and bring this up and sort of move it into position. I don't want to take it off that center axis. Let's go ahead and make this a bit wider. Okay, and then we also want to give it a few more divisions. So along the width, I'll maybe give 4 divisions, and then along the height, a couple of divisions, and then we definitely want a few divisions, maybe 6 along this direction. Okay, so in this side view, let's turn on X-ray, and then can kind of thin this up, and we can start to shape this. Now there aren't that many points here, so if you want to get a deformer to do this, you can, but there aren't that many points, so it's just as easy, I think, to come in and grab those points and just match up that curvature here. I'm just making it a bit more narrow. And move this down. And we'll do the same thing here. And here. And that'll be the kind of the front. Okay, if you want to sort of space these out a little bit, you can do that. I don't want it to be squared off, so we can also come in here and take these corners. Okay, and we can scale them in, so it'll kind of knock off the end there, and then taper this back. Okay, and then we can also take these and move them in. Okay, keeping that lined up there. Okay, let's go ahead and grab these and move those back just a little bit. So we get kind of a curve. Move that about halfway. Okay, we can do the same thing here. Start to take these back. And then take these corner points, scale those in, and move those back. And just do a little bit of shaping here to give it kind of a little bit of a taper. Same thing up here. Okay, let's take the whole thing and make it just a little bit narrower. We can smooth that out to kind of see what that looks like so far. All right. Now let's create the solid portion of this seat. And so I'm going to go ahead and just select a couple of faces underneath and then grow the selection. And then anything I don't have selected, kind of select that. I want to fix this point right in here that we didn't get moved. Okay. And again, select those faces, shift, and greater than, grow that selection, and then I'll come in and select these polygons. Okay, just that lower section. Let's go ahead and extrude these out, and we'll just pull it out in this axis. Okay, and then we'll use our insert edge loop tool to tighten up those edges. And that'll give us kind of a framework for the bottom, or if we smooth this, we get kind of the seam there. Now we want to do the padding on the top, and for the padding on the top, I want to actually have kind of little pads sticking up. And so to do that, I want to make these kind of even out these lines here, and I want to move these based on the normal. So I'll go into the move settings, hit normal, and then I can start to kind of move these around a little bit. Okay. Pull that out just a little. Move those back in. Okay. Now I want them to be a little bit more square, so I'm actually going to add a couple of lines in here. Because I'm adding these, whenever we're working with a smoothing workflow and you start adding resolution, it's going to change the curvature. So remember before we had a nice smooth seat when we hit 3. Now let's take a look at what this looks like when we hit 3. You can see that we're actually getting some creases here. So you can see where this comes up and it kind of changes direction. So the very important aspect of working with smoothing is the fact that when you add resolution, it tends to change the way the curvature happens. And that's kind of the whole reason why we add those extra edge loops, is we want it to sharpen up those edges. So in those cases, it's doing what we want. In some cases, it may not be doing what we want. So you may have to go in and modify your curvature after the fact if you're going to be adding resolution like that and you're going to be smoothing it. Okay, so let's say we've got something like this, and now we want to actually extrude these up. Now you might think we need to extrude each individual face up, but actually there's a setting that we can set that'll make our lives a lot easier. So let's actually go in here and just grow our selection. And then actually, I think I just want the top faces. So just these faces on top, and we'll leave the side alone. Okay, so select all these faces. Make sure you don't have anything else selected. All right, so just those faces on top. And now we want to extrude, but before we do this, we want to change a very important setting. And that is, if we go into Edit Mesh, this Keep Faces Together. Up to this point, every time we extruded, if we extruded a group of faces, they'd all be extruded together. That's because this option was on. If we turn this option off, we can still do an extrude all together, but the faces won't stay together. They'll be extruded separately. So if we turn this off, so it's now off, and we do an extrude, you can see it's now extruded each one of those faces individually rather than all of them as a group. We can pull them up. You can see it affects them all the same. We can pull those up, and you can get that kind of a look. So if you have something where you want to do the same thing to a number of different faces, you want to extrude them all the same, you can select all the faces, turn that Keep Faces Together off, and then it'll affect them in that way. Now another thing that we want to look at is the soft selection. So if we go into our move, we can go down to soft selection. And this is something that if it's on and you're not sure what it is, it can give you some problems. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So I'll turn it on, and I'll select a point, maybe right here. So you can see that now we've got this yellow to red to black gradient going on. And what happens is, if I start to move this one point that I selected, it's actually moving that whole thing. Now that color is showing the fall off. So it's moving everything in this area, and then it's falling off, and the effect is falling off as it comes down here. You can see this a little bit better if we decrease the fall off radius. So now it's just affecting that. So this is a really great tool for really making overall changes in the shape. Okay, we can dial in our soft select if we want to just modify this a little bit. Give it a little bit more shape to this seat. Okay, maybe push this down a little bit. And we don't want to do each individual point. We want to have the transition be nice and smooth. This is a good option for us. And that's located in your tool settings for your move tool. Okay. If I go ahead and select a face, you can see we get the same result. So you can turn that soft select on or off. You have a fall off curve that you can adjust, as well as the radius coming around here. And then you've got your colors that you can change if you want to change that to indicate where that fall off is actually happening. All right, and there are presets that you can add for the curves and so forth. But that's something, if you go and select a point and you see those colors, that's actually what that is, the soft select, and you can anytime, turn that off. So now if I just select that, I'm just moving that single point. Okay. Now let's go ahead in the next lesson and finish creating the seat. We'll create kind of the springs for the seat using some curves and some booleans. So we'll go ahead and do that in the next lesson.